Well, well, I didn't expect to see you here. Still pretending you belong in rooms like this?
I was invited, same as you.
I've run this company for 22 years. You know what I've learned in that time? And this morph has you end this building tonight.
The dinner that changed everything, a story of dignity, fatherhood, and the moment the world stood still, the invitation had arrived on a Tuesday. Printed on cream cardstock with gold embossed lettering. The kind of paper that whispered money before you even read the words. Daniel Mercer had held it in his hands for a long moment, standing in his small apartment kitchen while his 7-year-old daughter Lily colored at the table behind him. Ashford and Reed Annual Gala. Black tie. Friday, 7 p.m. Grand Ballroom, Harrington Hotel. He had set it on the counter, poured himself a glass of water, and stared out the window at the city below. 3 years he had worked at Ashford and Reed. 3 years of arriving early, staying late, learning every system, mastering every account. His colleagues wore expensive watches and talked about weekend trips to the Hamptons. Daniel wore the same 2 suits on rotation and spent his weekends at the playground 2 blocks from their apartment, pushing Lily on the swings until her laughter filled the whole park. He had almost declined. Events like this were not made for men like him. Men who rushed out of the office at 5:30 sharp because daycare closed at 6. Men who skipped the after-work drinks because a little girl was waiting at home. Men who heated up soup for dinner and read bedtime stories in funny voices until small eyes finally closed. But his colleague James had talked him into it. "You never show up to anything, Danny," James had said, leaning against the break room counter. "People are starting to think you don't exist. Just come. One night." So he came. The grand ballroom of the Harrington Hotel was everything Daniel had expected and more. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, casting warm gold light across the room. Round tables draped in white linen were arranged in perfect rows, each set with more silverware than Daniel owned in his entire kitchen. Waitstaff in black uniforms moved silently through the crowd, carrying trays of champagne that caught the light like liquid glass. Daniel stood near the entrance in his best suit, charcoal gray, the one he wore to interviews and funerals, and adjusted his burgundy tie. Lily had picked it out that morning, sitting on his bed with her legs crossed, studying his options with the gravity of a small judge.
"That one, Daddy. It makes you look like a prince."
He smiled at the memory and straightened up. The room was already full. He recognized faces from the office, senior partners, department heads, clients whose names he knew from account files but whose faces he rarely saw. There was laughter, the clink of glasses, the low hum of important conversation. Everyone seemed to know exactly where they belonged. Daniel was reaching for a glass of sparkling water from a passing tray when he heard it. The laugh. He would have recognized it anywhere. That particular sound halfway between amusement and contempt, like the world existed purely for her entertainment. He turned slowly. Emily Hartwell had not changed. She stood near the center of the room in a royal blue dress that fit like it had been designed for her alone. Her dark hair was swept up into a perfect chignon, her posture immaculate, her smile sharp as a scalpel. She was beautiful in the way that certain things are beautiful. Precisely and coldly, like a marble statue. They had dated for 2 years. He had loved her with everything he had. And then, when Lily came into his life, his late sister's daughter, orphaned at 4 years old, with big brown eyes and a stuffed rabbit named Mr. Buttons. Emily had given him a choice that wasn't really a choice at all. Her or me, Daniel. I'm not signing up to raise someone else's problem. He had chosen Lily without a moment's hesitation. Emily had walked out and never looked back. That had been 3 years ago. He had not seen her since. Now she turned, and their eyes met across the glittering room. For a fraction of a second, something moved across her face, surprise maybe, or something older. Then the smile returned, colder than before, and she began walking toward him. Daniel held his ground. "Well," she said, stopping in front of him, tilting her head with that familiar mocking angle. "Look at you, still playing dress-up at company events. Emily." His voice was even, steady. "I heard you're still at Ashford and Reed." She glanced around the room as if surveying territory she already owned. "Still in the mid-level accounts team?" "Still doing good work," he said simply. Her lips curved. "And the situation? You're still doing that? The whole single father routine?" Something tightened in his chest, but he kept his face calm. "She's not a routine, she's my daughter." Emily let out a short laugh. Not loud, not yet. and shook her head. Your daughter, right. She said the word like it was a costume he was wearing. That's so sweet, Daniel, really, very noble, but we both know what you gave up. She lifted her champagne glass slightly. Your career, your future, your actual life. All for what? For someone else's... Careful, he said quietly. She paused, studied him for a moment, then smiled wider. And then she turned, and she raised her voice. Everyone, she called out, with the easy confidence of someone who had never once doubted that the room would listen to her. And it did. Heads turned. Conversations paused. The hum of the ballroom dimmed. Daniel felt the blood drain from his face. I just want to take a moment, Emily continued, projecting clearly across the room, to acknowledge this man right here, Daniel Mercer. Some of you might know him. He's been in the mid-level accounts team for 3 years. She paused for effect. 3 years. You know why he hasn't moved up? Because instead of focusing on his career, he decided to play daddy. He gave up every opportunity this company offered to go home and change diapers. Laughter rippled through nearby clusters of people. Uncomfortable laughter. The kind that happens when a room doesn't quite know what else to do. Daniel stood absolutely still. He would not move. He would not speak. He would not give her the satisfaction of watching him flinch. But inside, something was burning. Not shame. Something older and more honest than shame. Grief. Grief for the version of this moment he had imagined. The version where he walked into this ballroom and simply belonged, where no one looked at him like he was a punchline. Then he heard a small voice beside him. He looked down. Lily was standing at his elbow. His heart stopped. She was supposed to be with Mrs. Garza next door, but there she was. In her little navy dress, holding Mr. Buttons by one worn ear, her brown eyes moving between the crowd and her father's face. The building's event had spilled into the lobby where Mrs. Garza had apparently brought her after she refused to sleep, and somehow, in the chaos of the evening, she had found her way to him. She looked up at him with the serious expression she reserved for important things. Papa, she said softly, just loud enough for the people closest to them to hear. Why is that lady being mean to you? The laughter in the room died. Daniel crouched down to her level. He cupped her small face in his hands and looked at her. Really looked at her. The way he did every single morning when she woke up and every single night before she slept. She's not being mean, baby, he said quietly. She's just confused about what matters. Lily considered this with the gravity that 7-year-olds apply to serious things. Then she nodded, apparently satisfied, and tucked herself under his arm. He stood back up. The room was very quiet now. And then from the far end of the ballroom came the sound of heels on marble. Slow, deliberate, the kind of footsteps that do not hurry for anyone or anything. The crowd parted without being asked. Victoria Reed was 52 years old and had built Ashford and Reed from a 3-person consulting firm into a company with offices in 7 cities. She was not a tall woman, but she moved through rooms the way mountains occupy landscapes, permanently and without apology. She wore a deep emerald gown and no jewelry except for a simple gold watch, and her silver-streaked hair was worn loose around her shoulders. Everyone in the room knew who she was. Not everyone had ever seen her walk directly to someone. She walked directly to Daniel. She stopped in front of him and, without a word of preamble, extended her hand. He shook it. Daniel Mercer, she said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. I've read every account report you've submitted in the past 3 years. You solved the Hendricks acquisition problem in 2023 that 3 senior partners couldn't crack. You restructured the Morrison account and saved this company $400,000. You did all of that while leaving at 5:30 every single day. She let that sit for a moment. I have always wanted to know, she continued, what kind of person produces that quality of work under those constraints. She glanced down at Lily briefly, and the corner of her mouth moved. Not quite a smile, but something warmer. Now I know. She turned and faced the room. Not Emily specifically, just the room, all of them. This company was built on a principle that I have repeated in every hiring interview for 25 years, Victoria said. Character is the foundation of excellence, not hours logged, not social performance, character. She paused. This man has more of it than anyone in this room tonight. The silence stretched, and then someone began to clap, then another and another, until the applause moved through the ballroom like a wave, unhurried and unstoppable. Victoria turned back to Daniel. "I'd like to discuss a senior partnership position," she said simply. "Monday morning, my office, 8 o'clock. A pause. Bring coffee if you like. Don't bring an excuse." "Yes, ma'am," Daniel said. She nodded, looked down at Lily once more. "Lovely dress," she told the girl. Lily held up Mr. Buttons. "His name is Mr. Buttons," she said seriously. "He's also very dressed up." Victoria Reed, for the first time in the memory of everyone present, laughed. A real one, unguarded and full. Daniel did not remember the rest of the evening clearly. He remembered Lily falling asleep against his shoulder at a corner table. He remembered James gripping his arm and saying, "I told you to come." He remembered, distantly, catching a glimpse of Emily near the exit. Not smug now, not performing, just standing with her champagne glass and looking at something she had walked away from. A long time ago. He did not feel victorious about that. He felt, more than anything, tired. The good kind of tired. The kind that comes after something long and difficult finally finds its proper ending. Outside the hotel, waiting for their car, Lily stirred against him.
Papa,
She murmured without opening her eyes.
yeah, baby? That lady at the end, she was nice.
She was, he agreed.
She liked Mr. Buttons. She has excellent taste.
Lily smiled in her sleep. Daniel held her a little closer and looked up at the city sky, dark and wide and full of lights that never went out. He had walked into that ballroom tonight carrying something invisible, the accumulated weight of every small sacrifice, every sideways glance, every moment he had felt like a footnote in a room full of headlines. He walked out carrying something different. Not a promotion, not applause, just the absolute, unshakable knowledge of what he was worth. And that, he understood now, had never actually been in question. It had been decided 3 years ago, in a quiet apartment, when a small girl with a stuffed rabbit had looked at him like he was the whole world. He had made the right choice. He had always made the right choice. That night, I didn't just get my dignity back. I remembered I never lost it. End.